Well, this morning as these young men are coming, y'all can sit here if you want. That way you're... I want to share a passage of Scripture, but I don't want to take a lot of time because these young men have a lot that they want to share about their trips. And we'll have other services that we're going to have. Next Sunday night will be, again, our mission trip that just went this last week, and Miss Kylie will be speaking. We're going to be setting up a service with Miss Juliana. I saw her somewhere. She got back Friday, so we're glad she's home safely, and we're setting up a date for her. I've got a date, so see me after church, and we'll see if it works for you. But we're going to have just some things that we want to share, or they want to share. But the passage I want to share this morning is in Matthew chapter 28. And this is Jesus before he ascends into heaven for the final time before he comes back at the second coming. And I want to share this verse with you in verse 18 and Jesus in verse 28. It says, "And Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go, therefore, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even until the end of the age. Amen." We here at Hurricane Chapel have been sending people all over the world this summer. We've had them in Africa, we've had them in North America, South America. We have been fulfilling this commission with our young people. And so it is just a privilege to allow them to be able to speak this morning. And so we're going to have Jacob come. He's going to come and tell us about his trip. And just turn it over to him.
I'm Jacob Edgman. My parents are Jeff and Angie Edgman. And I just wanted to introduce myself, but I have a short video to play first, and then I'll speak.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of life. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. And if the stars were made to worship so light, I can see your heart in everything you made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. And if creation sings your praises, so will I. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty your voice. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. When as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. And if it all reveals
I'm going to start out by telling you facts about Brazil. Brazil is the largest country in South America, and its population is about 209 million. But the city we stayed at, called Jabuticabal, the population is only 76,000. It's one of the few countries in South America that doesn't speak Spanish, and it's the only country that speaks Portuguese in South America. During training week at Welch College, we did team building exercises and learned some of the language spoken in our countries we were going to, and we worshiped together. But when we got to Brazil, some of the locals picked us up, and we saw some of the first real Baptist churches in Brazil, and we went and ate lunch with them. That first Sunday we were there, we went to church and introduced ourselves, and that night we sang and did our mime, a skit where you don't say anything, but we have music playing in the background. And then the next 3 days were spent at schools doing our mime and songs and helping them learn some English and them helping us learn Portuguese. And we fellowshiped with people from the church. The next few days were our tourist days. One day we went to a water park, and then the other days we went shopping. That next Sunday we went to church, and that's when we saw the baptisms that were in the video. And that night we had service at the local church camp. And then the last day, that Monday we were there, we went shopping one last time and went to an ice cream factory. And then also on that last night when we were there, we were at the local church's pastor's house, and I went outside and I was looking at the stars, and I felt God had called me to youth ministry.
I don't know if y'all caught that last part, but what he was talking about was he answered the call into youth ministry. God reaffirmed that this last week on the mission trip, and so he was given that confirmation. And so we're excited to see the things that God is going to do in Jacob's life and how he's going to use him in the future. We'll be utilizing him here at church, and so it's amazing to see how God's working in our young people's lives. And one of the things that I didn't know, but when I saw his pictures, we were truly fulfilling that call to the nth degree. I mean, they were baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That is awesome to see that. And so, great job, and I'm excited for the things to come for you. Awesome job.
Good morning. I'm Grayson Clark. I'm gonna tell you all about my trip. I went to St. Croix, and that's in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And several people have asked me if I had to have a passport when I went down there. To go to St. Croix, you do not have to have a passport, since it is U.S. territory. So that's just something I wanted to say at the start. This picture is us at opening ceremonies. This is my team. My team, there's a boy holding a flag right there. That is Trey. That's the only other boy on my team. There's only two of us. So me and him got pretty close on this trip since there's only two guys. Besides our leader, we had Mr. Mike and Mr. Nay Pointer. They were our leaders that went with us down to St. Croix. But this is right before we went in, and we had a worship service this night. And but this is a picture that we had before we went into opening ceremonies. This is me signing our crest. So we made crests during training week. So we had 3 weeks of that I was there. I had a week of training, and then I had 2 weeks at St. Croix. I was signing our crest. Our crest was what our mission was going to be while we were down there, what our mascot or our character that we wanted to be. And ours was a sea turtle. Since we were going to St. Croix, we chose something that was going to be of the sea. We also had an anchor, and the anchor was, it came from the verse we had, and our verse for our team was Hebrews 6:19, and Hebrews 6:19 says, "This hope we have as an anchor of the soul, but sure and steadfast, and which enters the presence behind the veil." I messed up on that one, but this hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, and which enters the presence behind the veil. And the reason our leaders chose this is because it was talking about an anchor, and they said that they thought this verse looked and sounded good for us because we're going to St. Croix. And so when you think of St. Croix, it is an island. And so you think of boats and the sea. And so that's why we had that on our crest, and that's why we had that verse on our crest. This is my team. We took a picture while we were at Welch. Welch College was where we had our training week. This is our crest that we finished. Our whole team is there except for one of the girls that was on our team. This was a Friday, and she was actually graduating that Friday, so she didn't get to come until Saturday. So she wasn't in this picture, but she'll be in some of the later pictures. This was my team. We were practicing face painting. I did not paint because I'm no artist by any means, so I didn't paint. I did let them paint my face. I think I have a picture of them painting my face. They painted me as a pirate. They said they wanted a serious picture. They didn't want me smiling or goofing around in the picture, so I had my face like that. I look like I'm miserable, but I'm not. It was a good time. We were making balloon animals or balloon figures. I think we made one animal, which was a dog. I didn't finish any of mine because, again, I'm no artist. So in this picture, you can't really tell, but like my face, like I'm kind of nervous because my balloon's about to pop. And like after this picture was taken, my balloon popped. But I didn't finish any of the stuff that I tried to make. But that's what I was trying to do right here. I was trying to make a flower, but I never finished it. So this is at team time. Team time was at the end of the day during training week. During team time, you would get together as a team and you would talk about what happened during the day, what you learned, what you talked about, what was fun, what maybe your low was during the day, what you didn't like about the day. It was a time to get together as a team and grow closer before we went on our trip. And so this is just a goofy picture of us just having fun at team time. This is a picture of our team before we left. This is the day before we left to go to St. Croix. Everybody got pictures together. Peyton is in this picture. She's on the front row. She was the girl that graduated. We had this picture. Everybody got their shirt, had our own team shirts. I'm not wearing mine this morning, but ours just said St. Croix, and it was a circle. Something else I wanted to talk about before I went on to the next one, because I think this is the last one I have of at training week. Some of the stuff I wanted to remember from training week was we did a service called Concert of Prayer. So what a concert of prayer is where we sang worship songs in the beginning of service, and then the rest of service we prayed. And you may be like, well, praying, that's kind of boring. Like, not boring, but I mean, like, I don't know, like you don't think you could last a whole service with praying. This service, we prayed for a little under 2 hours, and it didn't feel like we prayed for under 2 hours. It felt like we were there for 5 minutes. So what we did is Uncle Neil, who's not actually my uncle, I don't know why everybody calls him Uncle Neil, but they call him Uncle Neil. And he's pretty awesome. But he did the service, and what he would do is he would ask you a question, and you would get together with a partner. So me and Trey were partners because, again, we were the only two guys on our team. So we were partners for a lot of stuff. But we did this concert of prayer, and he would ask you a question, and then you would get together, and you would talk about it, and then you would pray. And so he had multiple different questions, and you would pray about it. And so I thought that was something cool. And then some of the other stuff I wanted to remember from training week is the stuff Uncle Neil taught us. So one of the things he taught us is we did a class with him. He is actually a psychologist. And he did a class, and he did our personalities without even meeting us. Like, he was able to tell us our personality without even meeting us because he did a test on us. I couldn't tell you how that test goes. I can't really remember how he did it. But it was pretty cool because he didn't know me, and then he could tell me my personality just from doing the test to me. So I thought it was pretty cool. This is my team. We were at the airport in Nashville getting ready to leave for St. Croix. I've flown plenty of times. I'm not afraid of flying. I've never really had trouble with flying, never getting my ticket mixed up or misplaced or something. But this trip tested us. We had 13 total, 11 students, and our 2 leaders. One of the girls on our team, Liz, we got to the airport, everybody got their tickets, and they couldn't find her ticket. They didn't know where her ticket was, and the people at the airport said we didn't have a ticket for her. We ended up getting her on our flight, We did not think she was going to get to go on our flight, though. We thought she might have to fly with our leader, Miss Renee, on a different flight, but she was going to get to come for sure. Just we didn't know if she was going to be able to fly with us or come later. This is us touching down in St. Croix. This picture, I like this picture because it shows the airport, and that's like the whole airport right there. St. Croix, it was a tiny airport. So again, I've flown plenty of times, and I've never been to this is the smallest airport I've ever been to. One of the cool things about this airport is you unload it off the airplane on the tarmac. So I've never done that. I thought that was really cool. So like I got out of the plane and I was right there where they were getting the baggage off the plane, and they were just unloading us. So I actually got to unload off the back of the plane. They opened both doors and they just had stairs and you got off. So I thought that was pretty cool getting off at this small airport. This is my team. The first night we were there, a couple of the missionaries that were there, they took us out to eat, and we were right there by the beach, and our team got a picture of us just jumping and having a good time. But this is also when I learned that whenever you're in St. Croix, you wear flip-flops everywhere, but you pack your tennis shoes and socks in your bag if you like wearing tennis shoes and socks. And I'm not a flip-flop person. I don't like wearing flip-flops. So I don't know if I have a picture up there later, but I have one. There was a picture, and my feet were really white, and I was in flip-flops. And so my feet ended up getting sunburnt while I was down there. But I learned after this night to always wear my flip-flops wherever I went, because I was going to end up at the beach sometime at St. Croix, since it is an island. So I knew I'd be at the beach. This is Free Will. So Free Will is the campus we stayed on. They just call it Free Will. They don't have to call it Free Will Baptist. There is other Baptist churches. There's no other Free Will Baptist church, though. There's only one Free Will. So if you're anywhere on the island, you say Free Will, they know where it is. This school, something cool about it is it's a church and it's a school, but it's also well known for its education. It's education's best on the island. So you have other schools, other private schools, and some of them are other religions, but it's a school too. It's a private school, but their Free Will's education has such a high rate in education that some of the other religious principals or whatever would send their kids to this school to learn because it was the best one on the island. This is a picture of soury. It was a fruit that grew on campus. So the campus before the hurricane hit a couple of years ago, it had over 20 different types of fruit trees that were on campus that grew right there, and you can go out and pick. This was one of the main ones that was there right now. They don't have that many now because the hurricane took out a lot. It was a sour fruit. I liked it. I like sour stuff, but it was just like, it was a little apple. It wasn't very big, and you just bit out of it, and it was real sour. It was like a warhead. I don't know if you ever had a warhead, but it tasted like a warhead, and it was just like a little fruit that grew, and you could go get it whenever you wanted. This is Kaya. It's one of the girls on my team. She did not like sour stuff, but she tried it anyway, and this was her spitting it out. I thought it was funny, so I'd put it up there. So that was her trying soury. This is me and some of my teammates. There wasn't all of us, but we were taking a picture, and Christiansted is behind us. So there's like what we would call counties here. Would be basically what Christiansted and Frederiksted were on St. Croix. There's only like really two counties. Christiansted, in my opinion, it was my favorite. It was a little more touristy, and it was like a little bit nicer. Even though Frederiksted did have the port to where cruise ships could come in, Christiansted was my favorite. But we were taking a picture up there. We stopped to look at the view, and there's the view that we had. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a hotel that it looks like a peninsula. That's actually another little separate island, and there's a hotel on it, and it's just the hotel. So if you stay on that hotel, you're on your own little island. And to get in, you got to either ride a ferry. I mean, you could swim across, but I mean, you don't want to be wet for the rest of the day. So most people would have a ferry, and they would come and stay on the island for the rest of the day, and then ferry back across that evening. This was at Fort Christiansted. We toured this. Whenever they were showing us around Christiansted, we went to this fort, and they showed us this whenever they were showing us around Christiansted to tell us what we were going to be doing in Christiansted while we were there. And our team got a photo at the top. And so that was a picture of my team at Fort Christiansted. So this was on the beginning of VBS. We were actually setting up. So they broke us down into smaller teams, teams of like 3. So me, Trey, and one of the girls off my team, Katie, we were all on a team, and we built the tree on the left, and then some of the other people built the waterfall on the right, but we built all this stuff for VBS. This is me and my crew. my crew was about 6 people. It started out with 6, I went down to 5, and then I ended up with 6 again because they would add kids. So what they did is they would have ages from 5 to 5th grade come to this, and they would send out buses to the projects, and they'd bring kids in. So we had a little over 60 that probably came to VBS all week, and they would bring them in from the projects. And so one of the things that I learned while I was there is these kids have been through stuff that I never could dream of going through here. They've been through stuff. Some of the stories they would tell me, it just broke my heart to hear half the stuff they have to go through and that I never have dreamed of going through. But this was my crew. I had 6 in this picture. It was a little hectic at this picture. I was trying to hand out the Bible buddy for that night, and everybody was running around. This was at game time. It was like a game that we played that night. This is not my crew. This is actually Trey's crew, but it was one of the fun games. I didn't have a picture. They didn't have a picture of my team doing it, so I just put his up there. But I can't remember what the point of the game was, but it was you had to grab the noodle or something and not let the other one drop. But this was us at game time. Here is me and my crew. So in this picture, I actually had 7 kids in this one. They added an extra one to me that night. Makai is sitting on the front row in the flat bill hat, and he was my oldest one I had. So I asked him if he could sit on the front row so I could sit with the little kids and kind of keep them quiet. And I'm listening to Levi Wooten right here. Levi Wooten is the son of Pastor Gene Wooten and Miss Angela Wooten, who were over the church. They were the pastor. They were the missionaries there. And they actually had 4 boys, but I had their youngest on my team. And Levi was pretty cool. We got pretty close while I was there. He always hung out with me during the day and stuff. This is game time again. So my team, since you only have crews of 5 or 6, you didn't really have enough to play a game by yourself. So we got together with 2 other crews. So I got my crew joined with Peyton and Liz. Liz is not in this picture. I think she was doing something. I can't remember what she was doing in this picture, but we were playing a game right here. And so that's at VBS. This is the Imagination Station. So Imagination Station is basically what craft time is. You build your crafts or whatever, and you build a toy, and we would keep it, and we gave it to them at the end of the week. Again, when we would go to the stations, we would have 2 other groups with us, and all week I had Peyton and Liz and their crews with me. And so we had 3 different crews with us. And this was at the Imagination Station. We're in there building or creating stuff at this. This was during story time. So during story time there at St. Croix, we went over the plagues. And this was on Thursday night. This is the last plague we went over. This was during the Passover. We're all sitting there under our door frame where we painted the blood on the door. Not real blood. But we were all sitting there while they were teaching us about the Passover. So this was my team. We were sitting there. So this is the service. This was basically it was closing ceremonies. So Friday was the last night that we actually had VBS, but we invited them all back for Sunday so they could come and they could sing their songs in front of the whole church, and we invited their parents. So I had been at St. Croix for 2 Sundays, and so the first Sunday I was there, they had quite a few people there, but not it wasn't huge, it wasn't packed. And then this Sunday, it was packed full. I don't think we could have fit another person in there because all the kids' parents were there. And it was really cool because you got to listen to all the kids sing all their songs in front of all the parents. So I thought that was cool. But this was at the closing ceremonies, and I like this picture. This is a video. We did a mime on this Sunday. So this is a video that I wanted to show of my team doing a mime on the Sunday. So this was also the closing Sunday. This is my team and the missionaries' kids. We had the Wooten boys. So the Wootens had 4 boys. One of them had already left for camp, so he wasn't able to get a picture with us. But you had Levi was on my shoulders in the back, and then Seth and Cole. And then the youth pastors' kids were also there, the Mondays. The Malachi and Michaela Monday were in the front. And then Amoy is on the far right. Amoy just graduated from Free Will. He is also coming to Tennessee to go to Welch to study. I'm not sure what he's studying, but he's going to Welch. And he is coming down here. Me and him became pretty close while we were down there, became pretty good friends. And so I told him when he gets down here, I'll have to show him around since he showed me around St. Croix. He's been out of St. Croix once for his senior trip, and he went to Atlanta, Georgia, so he's never been to Tennessee. So I told him that I'd have to show him around when he got down here. This is me and the Wootens getting a silly picture. They wanted to get pictures that day. So the Wooten boys are right there of us sitting there flexing. So this is at the missions. So this is Lighthouse Missions. This is where the homeless would come. So the Lighthouse Missions is what it was, is 6 days a week you could come. If you needed a warm meal, it doesn't matter if you're homeless or if you were needing a meal. Every morning at 8 o'clock, they would have a meal, a hot breakfast for you, and they would cook you a meal. So while I was there, I did not cook, by the way. Our team didn't cook while we were there. We cleaned up. I cleaned up like glass bottles and stuff around the campus, and then we ended up cleaning up a little bit later. But on Tuesdays, they had a women's clothes closet, and then they also had a shower in the back if they needed a shower. And then on Fridays, they had a men's clothes closet, and again, they had a shower in the back if you needed a shower. This was some of the girls on our team cleaning out the fridge at the Lighthouse Missions. Now, let me tell you, I don't have a weak stomach, but this one got to me because our leader, Mr. Mike, we were cleaning out the fridge, and there was a box full of old mozzarella, and it busted, and it's the worst smell I think I've ever smelled. Like, it stunk up the whole place. It was after we had already served breakfast, so everybody else was gone besides us. But we made him end up taking off his shoes and everything because it got all over his shoes, and we didn't want him to stink up the van, so we made him throw away his shoes there so we didn't have to smell it the rest of the time. But it was really bad. I didn't think I was going to be able to stay in there. It was rough. This is our team after we finished that day. We got a picture all together. Miss Renee is on the far left, and Mr. Mike is in the back. That was our leaders that were with us. And then that's the rest of our team. So this is us painting at the elementary school. So they had 2 separate campuses. They had the elementary, and then they had the high school. So elementary went from like kindergarten all the way through, I think they did 8th at their elementary, and then they went from high school over there. So they didn't have a middle school. It was just elementary and high school. This is us painting. I am in this picture painting, but like I said, I'm not an artist. I don't paint. But they asked if, they said, we need somebody to paint. And I was like, if y'all show me how to do it, I can do it. And they were like, just roll it. And I was like, okay, I can do that. I can roll on some paint. So I was painting there. We were painting one of the elementary school classes for one of the teachers that was coming in. This is another picture of painting. So one of the days, we did this one of the days, and then the next day, I knew that we were going to be going back to paint, but they also said, they were like, hey, we need somebody to weed eat. We really needed a lot of weed eating done. And so I was like, oh, I'll weed eat. I was like, I know how to do that. I can do that. Well, down there, I didn't realize how much they needed weed eated. Once I got to weed eating, I was weed eating for probably 4 or 5 hours, and I was the only one on my team that knew how to weed eat. The other boy, Trey, doesn't weed eat. He's never weed eated before. So I was the only one that weed eated. He went to paint. And so after I got to weed eating, I was like, man, I really wish I would have went to paint now. It's hot out here. So this is pretty cool. They have a gymnasium there, and I think it's cool how their pastor uses it. He uses it as a witnessing tool. He opens up the gym on different days throughout the week. So Mondays, that he would open it up for basketball. This is not basketball, but he would open it up for basketball. Well, I like to play basketball for fun, and so I was like, he invited me to come play, and he was like, yeah, you need to come up here. He said, there's some older guys. He said, they play, and I'm like, oh, okay, older guys, I should be able to hang with them. So I was like, okay, I'll go up there, and I'll see if I want to play. Well, I got up there, and when he said older guys, I was thinking like my dad's age. I wasn't thinking like straight out of college. And so they were like all straight out of college. They were all built, and they play physical ball up there. And they had them, and they all played serious. And I was like, Pastor Wooten, I don't know if I want to jump in with them. I was like, they look a little rough for me. And he was like, all right, then just sit here and watch and you keep score. Well, as I was keeping score, I messed up on one of the times and I hit the buzzer and they all like gave me the death stare and I was like, sorry, I'm new. But this wasn't basketball. This was actually on a Thursday. He would open it up for volleyball for the church members, and the church members invited us. This was actually the second Thursday. The first Thursday they invited us, and I was almost positive they wouldn't invite at least me back because, I mean, I'm no good at volleyball, but I was like, they won't invite me back because they take it serious there too. They take volleyball serious, and we didn't do very good, so I didn't think they would invite me back. But they did, and we were having fun, and they said they enjoyed it having the extra people there. But this is us playing volleyball in their gymnasium. This is a picture. This is called Udall Point. We went stargazing. We went there to watch the sunrise one morning, the morning right before the missions. We went and watched the sunrise. And Udall Point is at the farthest point east, I think, you can get on the island. But what was cool about the stargazing is we went there and they said we were going to have a little worship service and we would sing songs. And so while we were there, it was so dark. It was so far away from the city, you were no lights. And it was actually really clear this night, which was really cool because you could see the lights from St. Thomas and St. John, which are two separate islands. But you could see them. If you looked out in the ocean, you could see the lights from the other islands. But we sat there on the ledge and we just sang worship songs. And we had a good time that night. And you could see the stars and everything. It was really pretty. You could just see how awesome God was. So this is us. Again, the small airport that St. Croix was. It was a tiny airport, smallest one I've ever been in. This was the start of our little over 24-hour flight back, which it should not take that long to get back from St. Croix. It should take about 5 hours, maybe. And but our flight got delayed. We got dropped off at the airport at 12. We were supposed to leave at 3:45. We did not end up leaving St. Croix until 9 o'clock that night. Our flight kept getting delayed. And so this airport's so small that they have like one little snack place and you could get either hot dogs or hamburgers. And then they had one little store, but like the store, like the prices were like through the roof. Like for a can of Pringles, it was like $8. And I was like, I don't want Pringles that bad. I'll wait till we get to Miami. But so we left at 9, we got to Miami. We had missed our connecting flight from Miami to Nashville. So we stayed at the Miami airport for a couple more hours while Mr. Mike tried to get us hotel arrangements. And they got us hotel arrangements. We got to our hotel about 1:30. We spent the night in Miami, got back up at 4 that morning and got back to the airport ready to go. But the only way we could stay together as a team and fly is we had to fly up to Washington, D.C. and then back down to Nashville. So we flew up to Washington, D.C. and we had a 2.5 hour layover. And then we got back to Nashville. So we were finally back to Nashville. I have a picture. This is me and Trey. So this hat that I'm wearing is his fedora. So his fedora has a story with it. And I didn't know it had a story with it at the beginning of the week. His fedora, he wore it everywhere. He didn't take it off. He wore it, I mean, like literally everywhere we went. And so I would mess with him whenever we first were at training week, and I would like try to grab it, try to put it on, and he would like grab it back. I never put it on. But one day I asked him, I said, Trey, why do you not want anybody to wear your fedora? And he said, well, because my granddad gave that to me before he passed away. And I was like, okay, that's all you had to say. I don't want it. I was like, I didn't know that. You can have it. I won't mess with you anymore. But one night he was telling me how he would let his brother, like he didn't even let his brother wear his hat. But he was telling me how he would let his brother just take a picture in it. And so I asked him, I said, hey, do you think at the end of this trip, if you think we got close enough or you think you would let me like just take a picture in it and you can be in my hat? And he was like, I don't know, I'll think about it. Well, this was at the airport when we were at baggage claim in Nashville. And I asked him, I said, hey, Trey, do you think, and before I finished what was coming out of my mouth, he took his hat off his head and put it on mine. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not a crier, but I about started crying right there because I was like, man, me and Trey did get close. So I thought that was pretty cool. Also, while we were there, so we had that layover and that long flight and stuff. They had lost 5 of our bags, mine being one of them. And I mean, I thought it was kind of funny because I was like, man, I lost my bag, but it'll be all right. But we had lost our bags. They ended up finding them. They were in Miami. They just never put them on the plane. I don't know how that happens. They got everybody else on our team but 5 of us. But anyways, they didn't get our bags. So they got them to us that evening. We ended up getting them before we left campus that night. But we did get our bags. This is us at closing ceremonies. They're doing basically what me and Jacob have been doing this morning. We were telling, so there was 10 other teams. There was 10 teams total, that went different places. So Jacob, he went to Brazil, I went to St. Croix, and there was other ones that went different places. And we were telling them what we learned, what we had got to do while we were down there, what stuck out to us, what we didn't like, stuff like that. We were telling like the parents and the other teams at this picture. This is my last picture on my slideshow. But one thing I wanted to say about my mission trip that got to me. So I've been praying about like what I wanted to do after high school. I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I'd been thinking that I wanted to go to trade school or to be an electrician, and I still do. But I didn't know if that was something that God had for me or if I was just like jumping into it, if it was just me like going for it. And so while I was down there, I got to talking to one of the missionaries. Her name was Miss Page, and I was talking to her, and I was telling her, she asked me what I wanted to do after high school, and I said I wanted to go to electrician, be an electrician, and she wasn't real sure, like I wasn't real sure if like that was what God wanted for me or if that was what I wanted. And so as I was talking to her, she was like, well, you could use that to glorify God. She said, here's how you could do it. She said, think about it. Down here in St. Croix, we don't have very many electricians. So if you ever went on a mission trip and they needed an electrician, she said that could be how you use that. And so there was like a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, duh, Grayson, why didn't you think of that? But that was something that like, I felt like God answered my prayers, like, because I'd been asking him, I was like, is this just me or is this you want me to do this? So I just wanted to share that. And last, I just wanted to thank everyone for their support financially and prayerfully. Thank you for your support.
What an awesome thing to see our young people come back and just the stories they tell and how God works in their life. And I want to challenge you to be back next Sunday night. You're going to get to hear our team of 20. Hopefully they'll all be back in town that night. And next Sunday night, they'll be sharing with that. So if you're here this morning and I didn't get to apologize to you, I got them all last night ready to speak this morning. And when we started looking at the time of others speaking, we didn't want to rush anybody. We want to allow them to share what the Lord has for them to share. And God did some great things this last week with our teens that were, not just the teens, but with the adults as well, while we were in Ohio. And with Kylie, there she is. She's going to share next Sunday night as well about her trip. She was in Africa, and I'll let her share more about that. And then Juliana is coming up here in a couple of weeks if the date works out for her. She's going to share about her trip. And so it's just, God is doing amazing things in our young people's lives. Not just our young people, but in each of our lives if we'll allow him to. God is really working here at Hurricane Chapel and has great things in store from the youngest to the oldest. So thank you for allowing them to share this morning. And I just want to reiterate that the teenagers could not go on these trips without y'all's support. You know, there are things that we as adults can do. We might not be able to go on the trips with them, but we can support them first and foremost with prayer. We need to cover them in prayer as they begin to answer the calls that God's given them. We need to be supporting them. We need to surround them in prayer because Satan's going to do whatever he can to try to distract them or try to pull them away from that so that they won't answer that call that God has for them. And secondly, we can support them financially. Just so you know, for an E-team, once you've completed 10th grade, you can go on E-team and you can actually go for a total of 4 years. If you go 3 years, I'm sorry, they're correcting me. See, I'm new at this too. But there's 3 years that you can go on E-team. But each year, if you go outside of the states, it's $3,800 for them to go on that trip. And they have to raise those funds. Juliana's trip and Kylie's trip, they're in the thousands of dollars that they raise to answer this call that God's given them to go on these mission trips. So they need our support prayerfully and financially. And when we went on our mission trip to Ohio, it was $500 a person. And so we have to raise that money. But we do thank you for your support. This is a church that truly supports our young people and the things that we do. And I am so blessed to be able to be a part of that. So thank you this morning for that, and we're going to stand and close with a word of prayer. Yes. Yes, Jacob does have a table. As you exit the door, it's to my right, to your left. He has a table set up with some of the things from Brazil that he brought back. Take a few minutes, stop and look at that, and if you have any questions, both of them will be in the back. Jacob will be by his table, and Grayson will be on the opposite side, so if y'all have questions, stop and ask them. I'm sure they'd be glad to answer, and if you're going on Agape, they need you to get out quickly, and when we dismiss, let them go first, and then everybody else dismiss, okay? Go to the back door. So come up to the front and go out this way if you're on the Agape trip, okay? Well, let's close in prayer this morning. And I'd like to ask Jacob, would you close us in prayer, please?